Here's a Valentine's Day themed video for you. Today I'm going to be diving into the personality types of Elizabeth and Darcy from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. A couple of caveats before I actually type them. I am basing my analysis of these two characters from the original source material, Jane Austen's novel, but because this is a film essay and I need visuals, I will be relying heavily on the 2005 Keira Knightley film. Now, here I have to say that a lot of things can change when you take an original source of work and you adapt it into a different medium. So depending on the director, the producer, the writers, the actors themselves, and their portrayal of a character, it can really change a character's core motivations. So I'm not saying that I'm actually analyzing the 2005 version of these characters. In fact, if you were to press me, I would probably say they're a little bit different than what I'm about to go into for this particular video. And in a perfect world where I had a lot more time, I could make a video that talks about all of these different Jane Austen adaptations of Pride and Prejudice in order to analyze the different ways different Enneagram numbers are brought to life by different works. And believe me, I watched a lot of adaptations of this, but that is not this video, so I'm sorry. That all being said, I do apologize if this video is a bit more uneven than usual. I fully admit that I struggled to do this. Should have probably been a blog post, but I was set on doing this, so here I am. All right, let's first start with Lizzie.
Love every man in the room does not end the evening in love with you, that I am no judge of beauty.
All men.
No, they are far too easy to judge.
They're not all bad.
Cumulus poppycocks in my limited experience.
The spirited, independent Elizabeth Bennet, described by her father as having something more of quickness than her sisters, Lizzie is our sharp-witted, playful heroine of this story. Elizabeth is someone who, in her own words, dearly loves to laugh. She naturally entertains both herself and those around her with her lighthearted observations and jokes about whatever is going on in the village. She doesn't naturally like focusing on more serious or negative things, such as her family's entailed estate, but prefers to live on a higher plane, which is why I think Lizzie is a Type 7. Aside from her positive, carefree nature, which is often indicative of a Type 7, Lizzie's ideals also stuck out to me. Type 7s join 1 and 4 in what some call the idealist or the frustration triad. Each of them in their own way have lofty ideals, and so frequently encounter frustration when those high ideals are often dashed by the unfortunate real world. Elizabeth holds high ideals in the fact that she wants to marry for love and not for economic security in a time when that is all that is being demanded of her. She doesn't seem too concerned with the dire consequences of not marrying well.
Oh, Mr. Bennet, the way you carry on, anyone would think our girls look forward to a grand inheritance. When you die, Mr. Bennet, which may in fact be very soon, our girls will be left without a roof over their head, nor a penny to their name.
Oh, Mama, please, it's 10 in the morning.
But this isn't due to ignorance. She is fully aware of her economic situation, but refuses to compromise on these ideals.
Only the deepest love will persuade me into matrimony, which is why I will end up an old maid.
And she refuses Mr. Collins' proposal on the grounds that
You could not make me happy, and I'm convinced I'm the last woman in the world who could make you happy.
And when her best friend, Charlotte Lucas, makes the pragmatic decision to marry Mr. Collins, Lizzie has a hard time accepting it, explaining in the novel she had always felt that Charlotte's opinion of matrimony was not exactly like her own, but she could not have supposed it possible that when called into action, she would have sacrificed every better feeling to worldly advantage. Elizabeth also evaluates people from her Type 7 worldview. It's true that it's Darcy who first insults Lizzie early on in their acquaintance, but it's actually Lizzie's unconscious focus on things that can entertain her that actually lands Darcy on her personal blacklist while assisting Wickham in hiding his more insidious nature. He easily wins her over with his lighthearted pleasantries. This film doesn't show it, but the book definitely shows evidence of how superficial her relationship with Wickham was when he stops pursuing her in order to go after another woman with more money. She could see it and write of it without material pain. Her heart had been but slightly touched. She just wanted fun times with someone who shared her views. Now, I just want to take a moment to say that this doesn't mean that Elizabeth or Type 7s in general are just shallow, superficial people. You can see that Lizzie is actually just the contrary to that. She is thoughtful, naturally inquisitive, and observant, and she holds values that are far more important than her contemporary peers who focus on annual income and expensive furnishings. I'm only trying to point out her unconscious tendencies that cause her to focus on the brighter side of life and subtly shapes how she might move through the world or view the world.
That is his good friend, Mr. Darcy.
He looks miserable, poor soul.
Miserable he may be, but poor he most certainly is not.
Tell me.
10,000 a year, and he owns half of Derbyshire.
The miserable half.
Mr. Darcy, the man whom an entire county discovered to be proud, to be above his company, and above being pleased. Mr. Darcy is someone who tends to look for imperfections everywhere he goes, but he is also a man of integrity and truth who honors his responsibilities and cares for those around him. This is why I think Mr. Darcy is a type 1. Let's deep dive into Darcy's tendency to criticize. Like Elizabeth, he also takes his place in the idealist or frustration triad. But unlike 7s and their happy dreams, type 1s have ideal standards for both the world and themselves. Because of this, they're often frustrated by the fact that the world has all these flaws. In his first appearance at Hertfordshire at the town ball, he spends the evening a social recluse, and when Bingley tries to get him to engage with someone there, he instead insults Lizzie. In the novel, Jane Austen writes that Darcy had scarcely allowed her to be pretty and that he looked at her only to criticize. But very soon after that, he finds that he is mortified at the realization that he finds Elizabeth attractive. And again, similar to type 7s, not all 1s are this snobbish, but you can see how Mr. Darcy's snobbery is shaped by his type 1 point of view. Darcy later shows more evidence of the high standards he has for everyone when he talks about what he thinks it means for a woman to be considered accomplished.
The word is indeed applied too liberally. I cannot boast of knowing more than half a dozen women in all my acquaintance that are truly accomplished.
Goodness, you must comprehend a great deal in the idea.
I do.
Absolutely. She must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, and the modern languages to deserve the word. And something in her air and manner of walking.
And of course she must improve her mind by extensive reading.
I'm no longer surprised at your knowing only 6 accomplished women. I rather want to know you're knowing any.
Are you so severe on your own sex?
What I love about this scene is that it shows the ridiculously high standards Darcy has for others, and also his complete blindness to the fact that his standards are ridiculous. I feel like a lot of type 1s at first can struggle with that realization as well, because they're usually no harder on others than they are on themselves. But what put the final nail in the coffin for me on Darcy's number was this famous line.
Maybe it's that I find it hard to forgive the follies and vices of others, or their offences against me. My good opinion, once lost, is lost forever.
Again, not all 1s are like Darcy here, but this scene just overflows to me of that repressed, simmering resentment that is usually at the bottom and core of every type 1's connection to anger. Darcy also demonstrates the more positive side of type 1 in his dutiful and loving care for his sister Georgiana, as well as his responsible fulfillment of his father's promise to Wickham after his father passed away.
He and I are so similar. We're both so stubborn.
Now that I've talked about each of the characters separately, I'd like to take a little bit of time to discuss how they might interact with each other or influence each other through the lens of the Enneagram. Type 7s and 1s share a line with each other, which means that for 7s, they can kind of often go unconsciously to the negative side of 1, becoming a little more hard-headed and black and white in their thinking about what is true and right and what is not, and we can see Elizabeth do that in her interactions with Darcy.
He's been a fool about Jane, about so many other things, but then so have I.
On the flip side, you can see that type 1s can benefit a lot from moving to the positive side of 7, learning to relax and see the fun things in life rather than just the imperfections. When Elizabeth learns the truth of Darcy's and Wickham's character, it torments her for months. I viewed this as a wake-up call for her to reevaluate herself and others, and an invitation for her to go deeper than her typical surface-level enjoyment of different circumstances and ridiculous people. As for Darcy, in the book, he talks about how he could not stop thinking about her first rejection of his proposal. Lizzie, in her type 7 way, encourages him to forget his horrible actions in the past, but he replies like this: I cannot be so easily reconciled to myself. The recollection of what I then said, of my conduct, my manners, my expressions during the whole of it, is now, and has been many months, inexpressibly painful to me. Your reproof, so well applied, I shall never forget. Had you behaved in a more gentlemanlike manner. Those were your words. You know not, you can scarcely conceive how they have tortured me. This demonstrates the weight of his inner critic, and something that Elizabeth, as a playful type 7, can help lighten up. In fact, Austen goes further in the novel, saying, Elizabeth began now to comprehend that he was exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her. His understanding and temper, though unlike her own, would have the advantage of both. By her ease and liveliness, his mind might have been softened, his manners improved, and from his judgment, information, and knowledge of the world, she must have received benefit of greater importance. In many ways, the type 7 and 1 pairing is a pairing of opposites, but both have unique strengths that they can offer to the other and encourage them to grow in. All right, that's it for my analysis of Lizzie and Darcy. If you made it this far in this way too long video, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below what you thought and what other characters you would like me to analyze in future videos. Thanks for watching.